Welcome back to the Red Bull Wololo Legacy Tournament for AoE 4. We've got the July weekly number 3 with Capoch picking French, and he's in the blue trunks. He's up against Kasva in the red trunks on the HRE, and we're on Frisian Marshes. Fun fact, English is basically based on Frisian, which I think is based on a mix of Dutch and German. Well, the English around the time of, I guess, Age of Empires 4 English, that is. Kasva actually empowering his gold gatherers as they head through. So it's not going to last, but it will at least let them get that initial drop off a little bit quicker. Well, he's just empowering the food gatherers for the most part. Alright, he's coming forward to re-empower all his gold gatherers. So when it's a walking distance like this or any shorter, it's definitely worthwhile. It's really sort of any longer than this, like say if you had to go to this gold mine, probably wouldn't bother. So both these shivs, you're going to get a lot of sheep early on. Kasva needs to bring this one around. Unless he's looking to empower at the wood. Actually, I think he might be looking to empower at the wood later on. I'll send one around. And then yeah, look at transferring over to the wood. He's got the gold he needs to age. So skill of cavalry going down. Well, the Archon Chapel is just going to be used as the wood drop-off point to begin with. Poet for now just standing around. Probably could be used to re-empower the gold gatherers. He's just going to come forward and stand on the chapel. Doesn't do anything for building actually. There is some gatherers still in the food here for Kasva, so he's going to come back up and empower them at least. Or Capoch's School of Cavalry, an improved stables building. It's going to be ready to field some knights very soon, so Capoch coming in just to try and loosen up the villagers, take a bit of health off them, maybe deny a bit of gathering before he even gets a knight across. Kasva, we're able to garrison in the chapel and use it as a drop-off point now. So that's one of the recent changes. With the scout harass happening to Capoch's villagers, because if Kasva can slow down the gold gathering, he can actually deny early night pushing. It's going to be a little bit late now for that because there is already one in the queue, and Capoch can afford a second in terms of the gold. He just needs to get a bit more food. Kasva walling in his food gatherers. Going for these berries now. I look at taking mill as well. He's just distance gathering on the stone outcropping. So wouldn't quite... Probably needed to put the Arch and Chapel slightly over if he wanted to actually save on distance gathering here. Actually, if he put it on his stone and then took the wood, he'd still save on the production facility. And he'd be empowering his food then. So I think he probably should have actually put the Arch and Chapel on the stone, put the lumber camp on the wood, and he'd reap the benefit of all these 3 resources at once. Even though he's not looking to gather even though he's not really looking to gather a lot of stone till now. And really just to make sure he can get arrow slits for the moment. At least this way he'd still get the benefit empowerment there. Capoch coming into raid now with his knights. The second one on the way as well. That's how already finished does. Give Kasva the chance to add some of his own production, getting him for a barracks and stables. Well, it looks like Kasva is walling off, but slowed down. I can actually deny a little bit of gathering there briefly. Knight v Spear. I think the Knight wins 1-1, but it's definitely not cost effective now. Capoch really needs to keep this Knight alive, because that's 3 times the value at 240 resources to the 80 of a single Spearman. But he's definitely getting the value here, killing another villager. He's got another fully health Knight, forcing Kasva to really wall himself up, and he's managed to sneak a Knight through to the back so he can harass the wood gathering villagers, because there's nothing really to cover them at the moment. So Capoch really aggressive with the French, and it's really paying off right now, forcing more villagers to garrison. Well, it's Knight denying gathering, forcing more spears to come up to block him off. Another tower going up here because Kasva really wants to go for a quick age 3 by the look of things. Capoch is in a great position to go for one himself at the moment. Picking off another villager there. Losing that Knight at the top, but I think he's dropped 3 or 4 villagers of his opponents. So Kasva's on 26 vills. Capoch's on 33, because bearing in mind the French also gets a slight boost to their villager train speed. But it definitely doesn't offset the prelate completely. That's a phenomenal 40% drop-off bonus and gather speed. The Spear's not able to engage the Knight. It looks like both our players will be able to go for age 3 Capoch, because his aggression has definitely put himself so much room. He's gone Blacksmith, which gives him free Bloomery for the French. It really allows him to sort of briefly charge into villages or spears, and then disengage before the spears can really accrue value in the trade. And he'll probably be looking at getting Chivalry soon, because he does have 4 low Knights now, so it is sort of worth it. He is going to get it after this last Knight. So the Spear's moving out to try and pressure him. This means Kasva not going to have quite as much at home now. So Capoch just needs to stay disengaged for a little bit so he can reap the benefit of the Chivalry tech. It is quite expensive as well. by being aggressive, he forces Kasva to pull things out of his base, or the spears, and not really look at setting up with them on resources for now. Kasva in the meanwhile, really nice transition to a blacksmith. Hasn't got any upgrades just yet because he wants to get this Regnitz Cathedral first. He's setting up to try and pinch the relic, but it looks like Capoch possibly sniped the monk. He's coming back though. Chivalry about to finish up, so 5 knights healing up. The last one basically already just needing a little top up. Just really makes the upgrade pay for itself quickly. And any of the healing from here now is just sort of a huge boon to the French knights. Because you got to think about it in terms of the value it costs to take it when it's a unique tech like that. Kasva, Castle Age finishing up, and he will get that safe relic. He didn't end up losing the monk. Now the knights are full health enough that they can just win a trade here without dropping anything, and he can take another prelate out, it looks like. And Kasva bringing the spears back because he's got plenty here. They'll be able to kill the knights, but some arbs in addition here. So this sort of denies a switch to man-at-arms, and knights just really forces Kasva to have to actually field horsemen to deal with the arbs, rather than fielding, you know, knights to deal with bowmen. And then the knights of Capoch should be able to trade with those quite well. But Kasva are going to be looking at trying to get the relics where possible with this cathedral. He got that first. He got that first one, didn't he? What's he done with it? Oh yeah, it's in there. But Capoch trying to pressure now. If he can get the wall down, he can start hitting the wood and the rest of the eco for Kasva. But Kasva, he's got a few horsemen and a few spears now. He can actually take a pretty solid engagement against Capoch. What he's got at the moment. But Knight picking off the scout, so Kasva's going to be flying blind if he wants to try and get that relic. He's actually got a prelate here. He could probably try and weasel around over there to try and snatch up this relic. So the horsemen being used to great effect against the arbs. At the same time, the knights can thin out their count and keep disengaging before the spears can accrue too much value against them. So it's a tough fight for Kasva at the moment, really only with the one horseman left at the moment. So he's going to retreat because his spear count's getting quite low as well. Even though the arbs aren't quite as good as the bowmen, the archers, sorry, on costs against the spears, they're still quite useful against them, and it prevents Kasva from just spamming knights in this situation. He's got to go with spears for the most part just to deal with the knights, and maybe look at fielding some of his own range from here. We can get some crossbows in the mix to thin out the knights, or some archers to thin out the arbs. It could really pull him ahead. A lot of knights regenning, so chivalry really paying for itself now. You know, even though the HRE eco is so solid, but the French engage and disengage comp really accrues a lot of value through use of an upgrade like this, and through use of strong, unique techs. The guild hall also going to be able to act as a source of income for the French player. While Kasva, he is going to try and pinch this next relic, but Capoch is already sitting on it with a knight, so he's not going to be able to bring the monk home. And it's a bit expensive to just corpse run prelates or monks at this level. It's not even gonna... You'll barely move it from the initial spot. Well, it's now a monastery for Capoch. He's just looking at taking one of the more middle relics first before he worries about the safe one at home, because he knows Kasva's really unlikely to pinch this one off him. If anything, it's going to be another attempt at this relic, or an attempt at this relic all the way at the bottom of the map, if it wasn't this one right in the center between the two players. So yeah, you can always come back, grab this relic anyway, and then look at competing for one of the other distance relics once again. So it's a nice play there from Capoch, really hurting Kasva's chances of making full use of the Regnitz Cathedral, because he's used to be able to store 2 relics and generate 3 times as much from the 2 of them. Now it can store 3 relics and generate 2 times as much from the 3 of them. So when it's full, it's not really any worse. Sorry, it's only, you know, 1 bonus relic's worse. But when it's empty, when it's only got 1 in it, it's quite significantly worse in terms of the overall value that it's accruing for you compared to the old days before the patch. So nice little raid from Kasva, going to pick off some vills with his horsemen and force Capoch to have to send some of his distant units to come and deal with this, or some of his new production. Now Kasva's going to keep creeping forward, try and harass these guys. So Capoch's going to pinch that relic off Kasva now. He's not even worrying about the one on his side of the map that's distant. He's already grabbed the safe one and the middle relic, so he's grabbed the most risky ones. Kasva able to secure that safe one of his own. Kasva having a bit of a nice comp here. He's got the new lens nets, so I think they've had a bit of a buff in the last patch. Really nice area damage unit. So Capoch probably gonna have to look at getting some ranged here. Some more range, sorry. Or maybe even adding some mangonels. It looks like Kasva's ready to take an engagement here. Capoch up to 112 pop. Kasva up to 101. 50 vills versus 74 in favour of Capoch. So Kasva a lot less vills at the moment, given the fact that he's only got the 1 town centre to his opponent's 2. But in terms of military size, Kasva has a bit of an advantage right now. He's really just massed up army rather than booming. But not all of Kasva's infantry are taking the best engagement here. Streaming some more in. Capoch having to rely on massing up some more arbs right in his doorstep and retreating with the knights to get that extra charge damage off. Not just eat too much of this range net area damage. The knight count for Capoch getting really low right now. But Kasva's push is starting to run out of steam because he's only streaming in so many units at the moment. He's got a lot of idle gatherers. He needs to get these gold gatherers onto the next gold mine and try and get a prelate empowering them. Just have to deal with Capoch putting a fort here on this central sacred site. And looks like Capoch taking a 3rd and possibly a 4th relic here now. So Kasva's Regnitz Cathedral not really paying off for him at the moment. It looks like Capoch going to be able to just sustain a war of attrition now. Going for a raid with one of his knights, he'll be able to get a vill or 2 here. He's actually going to look at Pulling back out because he knows Kasva's ready to clean this up. So the man-at-arms and arms not quite as lucky as the knights in the sense they don't get any innate self-healing. Capoch sneaking a knight into his opponent's space, forcing Kasva to have to chase. Getting past a couple of towers a bit tough though. There's not a lot of health on the knight. It sounds like Capoch picking up another relic with Kasva attempting another raid with his horsemen right now. Should be able to get a couple of villagers for his troubles, but he may also lose a couple. He does have double springled tower here. The knight's going to have to disengage, so his infantry on defense as well. So Kasva building on the edge of the Archon Chapel, the lumber camp, so it's empowering all the villagers as they come through. Lasts just as long as if a prelate was to empower them. Palace of Swabia coming out now for Kasva, so this is going to be worth several town centres at once. So it produces town centres in a third of the regular time and at a quarter of the cost. I mean at a third of the cost, sorry. And yeah, Capoch sitting on 4 relics at the moment. But Kasva going to be able to really Vil boom behind this and hopefully catch up, because right now 62 Vils and 22 military to 102 Vils and 48 military. He's going to have to try and defend really well. So if he loses the Palace of Swabia, this could be it. Still training Vils out of his starting town centre at home as well. He's really just trying to muster up enough to get through this. Monk being picked off by a wolf, but I think that's probably the intention. If he's not trying to grab the sacred sites, the sacred site attempt here, and Kasva being denied. Capoch's forgotten about his monk over here. He's going to send him towards one of the sacreds, but he needs to actually have something deal with the wolf ASAP. There we go. So he's able to save the monk. He's going to try and grab one of the sacred sites. He's put a keep now on the other one. So this is looking really ugly for Kasva, he's got his Palace of Swabia, so he's got that age 4 advantage. He can get age 4 techs, all sorts of spearman armor and man-at-arms and low net damage techs that he can get. So he has wicked HRE infantry, and he's got that crazy villager train time. But Capoch is basically maxed out, well, almost maxed out, 180 pop out of 190. So it's going to be very scary for Kasva to deal with this. Capoch attempting to raid there, but there's plenty of spears back at home on defense. He's put some really nice choke points into his base. Now these frontside outposts under threat. And next up is that amazing town centre, the Palace of Swabia, with its triple villager production speed. So Kasva's going to have to send stuff to defend this, because this is his tool at catching up in the late game. He's up to 85 Vils to Capoch's 117 now. He was down by about 40 and now he's only down by about 30 because of this, but is it too little too late? And especially if he now loses it. He's got plenty of spears in the mix, but there's so many arbs for Capoch. He'll be able to thin out the man-at-arms count and then the spear count remarkably quick here. Saving grace in the emergency repairs, slowing down the trebuchets, forcing them to have another shot, but Soon Vils will have to start repairing or start fleeing. And GG. Capoch takes the series 2-0 over Kasva.